Hello there, RotoBallers, and welcome back for Week 8 of NFL DFS. I'm Thunder Dan Palyo, and I'm here to bring you my favorite NFL DFS plays at each position this week. Let's start with quarterbacks, and let's talk about Jalen Hurts, who's in the top pay-up option this week against my Pittsburgh Steelers, who haven't looked very good on defense. Hurts is a rushing threat as well as a threat to throw the ball down the field. He's got elite receivers. He's got everything working for him. I look for the Eagles to cruise and for Hurts to have another solid game this week. In the mid-tier, I'm going to roll with Tua against Detroit. Detroit has one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and their pass defense has been pretty bad. Tua looked decent in his return to, last week against Pittsburgh, and I think he'll have another week worth of practice under his belt and be ready to tear up this Detroit secondary. For cheap, we're going all the way down to only $4,000 on DraftKings for your cash games. Sam Ehlinger sticking the start for Indianapolis against Washington in this game. At only $4,000, he doesn't need to do that much to pay off for us. And Washington is more of a pass funnel defense, so I expect the Colts to have to throw the ball here a little bit. All right, let's head over to running back, where I think the obvious option up top is Derrick Henry against a Houston run defense that got completely demolished by Josh Jacobs last week. Derrick Henry had over 30 carries last week, didn't get in the end zone, but obviously has multiple touchdown upside. He's simply a can't fade guy this week in this spot. Speaking of Josh Jacobs, I'm not fading him either. The Saints might look like they're decent against the run, but they're not, and they're getting worse this season. Las Vegas, right, is continuing to feed Jacobs the ball. He's getting targets as well in the passing game, and 30-plus DraftKings points in 3 straight games. You simply can't fade Josh Jacobs this week either. If you're looking for a cheaper option, and there's some really good backs up top, I would drop down to either Raheem Mostert for Miami this week against Detroit, or with the news that Ezekiel Elliott could miss this week, I think Tony Pollard is another really solid option as your third running back in cash game formats. All right, let's talk about wide receivers. And the top wide receiver for me this week is Justin Jefferson, going up against Arizona secondary, 27th in overall pass DVOA. I look for Jefferson to be highly targeted by Kirk Cousins this week and have another big performance. He said 3 straight 100-yard performances. Tyreek Hill is another top option for me, as we want pieces of this Miami offense against Detroit this week. So if you're not playing Raheem Mostert, I would definitely look to play Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle, although I think Hill is the guy that has the most upside. And our mid-tier guy, borderline cheap guy, would be none other than DJ Moore from Carolina. Now, DJ Moore has really burned people a lot of this year, but last week had a really solid week. 7 catches, nearly 70 yards, got in the end zone, and we know that Carolina is going to throw the ball this week against Atlanta. And finally, I want to go to the tight end position. And at tight end, we're looking at Tyler Higbee, who continues to be highly targeted for the Rams. It's a tough matchup against the Niners, but I look for them to continue to target him in that spot. Irv Smith Jr., one of the cheaper options, another piece of the Minnesota passing attack against a really bad Arizona pass defense, and a team that's given up the second most fantasy points for tight ends this season. And then Juwan Johnson, if you're looking for another cheap guy down at the bottom of the salary scale for New Orleans, had a nice week last week, and we know that Vegas has been vulnerable to tight ends as well. So to recap, my top option to quarterback, if you can afford him, is Jalen Hurts this week. At running back, Derrick Henry going up against Houston in an absolutely can't fade spot. At wide receiver, it's Justin Jefferson, who, again, continues to produce big results for the Minnesota Vikings. And at tight end, Tyler Higbee, who is one of the most highly targeted tight ends in the league this year. Good luck this week in your contest. Remember to like and subscribe to this video, as well as to check out RotoBaller for all of your fantasy football, NFL DFS content, as well as NBA and all the other sports we have going. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next week.